Network Dojo.
Hello, Jeff Rensink here from Network Dojo, and in this video we're going to talk about the brand new Cisco Certification Program update that was announced at Cisco Live June 10, 2019. So only a week ago from today, the day that I'm recording this. So big change, absolutely. So what is all going down here? So the date you need to know, February 24th, year 2020. So as the date of this recording, 8 months, 1 week from today. Or for those across the seas, we'll translate this for you, 24 Feb 2020. Always like to, be a little bilingual in my dates, right? So that's the day when the new program goes into effect. Pretty much everything is new and everything current kind of fades away, or at least gets changed. We'll say that. It gets changed. So, overview of this video here. So, the entire CCNA, CCNP, CCIE certification program line is all changing. So, every last NA, NP, IE on February 24, 2020 is new, which is insane. I don't know if they've ever done something like this in the past. At Cisco Live, when they announced this change, they give their reasonings, business and technologies are changing, Cisco needs to evolve, yada, yada, yada. They have their business back-end reasons, I'm sure. But one thing that's been helpful to me as I kind of understand and wrap my brain around kind of the purpose of what this new program is meant to kind of accomplish. When we look at these changes, try to think of the new certifications and exams in terms of job roles. That was a big focus, sort of job roles. And so when you get certifications, they're really meant to fit you into particular job roles or be flexible to be able to have a CCNP or a number of different certifications that allow you to easily certify in the things that you need to certify and not as much extra junk that we might have had to suffer through in the current historical programs here. So, as you think about job roles, what are the skills and knowledge that an entry-level engineer might need to have, and then a mid-level engineer, and then a high-level engineer. That kind of maps to the NA, NP, IE kind of a world. So, someone just starting out into the networking world is usually in a more generalized job, whereas you start getting a few years under your belt, you start specializing and digging deeper into specific types of technologies, and then at the highest levels, you're getting expert level in sort of one focus on something. So certifications, exams, and recognition are adapting to better evaluate and endorse these different things. Okay, scope of this video, we're going to cover the entire program in sort of moderate detail. I'm not going to go super nitty-gritty and everything, so we're going to try to keep it moving quick, but it is a lot of information, so this video might get a little bit long. So hopefully you can stay with me across that. I'll also give my take, just generalized take on things at the end, kind of let you know, things that I like, things I didn't quite like. Look for, if you want more detailed stuff, definitely look for other videos. I'm going to have a video specifically on the CCIE Enterprise Wireless Certification, since that's kind of my bread and butter. We'll talk about how to make the transition for people looking at that wireless exam, and they might have already been studying the existing wireless exam, looking at that new expert wireless exam, and then also a special video about how recertification works in the new program. So if you want interested in more information about either of those, check out my other YouTube videos. You'll find those pretty easily. So here is sort of the new levels of certification. I mean, nothing too new really here. We still have associate, professional, and expert level. They kind of threw in the specialist level inside of there, which, that sort of maps. Maybe we kind of had specialist exams, typically more in the partner world, but definitely for the rank and file engineer, they really are going to start coming into play now. And there's kind of two tracks. There's sort of the engineering track going across the top, which is historically what we're used to in the NANP, IE levels, but now they're coming in with a DevNet track for those software developers and having associate, specialist, professional, and at some point an expert level certification for them. And so we sort of have these parallel tracks with all the same types of certification levels. So kind of interesting and cool that they're really putting a priority on introducing the software side of things, which they've been telling us that for a long time. Here's kind of an overview of what today the certification landscape looks like. We have this entry-level associate professional expert and just a really big list of different specializations in here, right? So we've got, boy, it looks like a dozen or so associate, maybe 10 or so professional, and, a few less expert. Very broad, lots of niches inside there. Some of them a lot more popular than others, but this is what it looks like today. Here's what it is moving to. So we can see some significant consolidation in things, very blatantly at the NA level, where there is but one NA, and we'll talk about that soon. Professional gets down to 5, and IE is at 6. And so nothing really changes too much at the IE level, but definitely associate and professional level, we definitely have a lot of consolidation going on. All right, let's focus in first on that CCNA level. So the Henry Ford model, I have here his famous quote, when he was manufacturing his Model T, hopefully I'm attributing it to the right person here. People complained that they wanted different colors. He said, hey, you can have this in any color as you want as long as it's black. Well, we have one option here for the CCNA. There is no more focus in terms of wireless CCNA, data center, collaboration, security, and so forth. It's just generalized CCNA, and that's all we have. It is one single exam that you have to pass to get this. There is no more CCENT, I think, at all. There is no prerequisite. So if you're early in your network career and you want to get your CCNA, you can just go right in, study for the CCNA, take that one exam, and if you pass, you will get your CCNA. So as you look at the exam, and we won't dig into the blueprint for that, but it pulls in topics from many of the kind of currently existing tracks out there. So you're going to see absolutely a lot of just basic networking stuff inside there, but you'll see a little bit of virtualization, a little bit of wireless, a little bit of security. Not deep, but just kind of understanding topics and ideas and foundational information on sort of a broad spectrum of information there. Now, if you are someone that does have a current CCNA of any flavor, you will automatically get the new CCNA for free. So as they try to make a smooth transition from the old to the new, they're doing pretty good about not making you go backwards. Now, unfortunately, if you had many CCNAs, well, there is but one CCNA new one to give you, so that's all you get. But you do get a free training badge for the track that it was in, so you do get some recognition that, hey, you did pass sort of an associate level type exam in wireless, in service provider, in data center, or whatever it was. And so if you did have multiple CCNAs, you do get a badge for each one of these. And we'll talk about badges in just a minute. Now, the expiration for this new CCNA should inherit from your current CCNA. So if I had a CCNA today that expired at the end of 2020, when I get this new CCNA, that new CCNA will also expire at the end of 2020, and I would need to recertify that one. One cool thing at the lower levels, now we can recertify through the normal exam method, which is what we've done in the past, but we also have the ability to use continuing education credits. And if you're someone that hasn't really followed the CCIE space, you might not know what those are. But basically, you can get credit for doing things like attending Cisco Live trainings, specifically not Live itself, but the sessions at Live, attending Cisco certified training, authoring like exam questions for NA, NPIE type exams. And so if you do these basically learning type things through an official Cisco capacity, you can get credits for that. And if you get, in this case, 30 continuing education credits, which honestly is not hard to do, you could do that at Cisco Live in 1 year, or by taking one Cisco certified, Cisco authorized training course, you would be able to recert. And so if you can get 30 continuing education credits, you don't even have to bother taking another exam to recertify. But if you want to take an exam to recertify, you absolutely can do that too. So what it means to you is you have more flexibility when it comes to actually recertifying any level of certification nowadays, which is a very nice thing that they did, in my opinion. Okay, specialist level, that's one level up from the NA. It sort of lives in the realm of the NP. So specialist level, everyone's a winner here, because the nice thing with specialist is that anytime you pass any exam, you get something to show for it. All right. So every written exam above the CCNA grants you something called a specialist badge. And a specialist badge is basically just a way to recognize, hey, you have a reasonable understanding of a certain range of topics here. I mean, the CCNA grants you that too, but definitely we get that at the specialist level. And so if you just needed to say, hey, I know about this one specific thing, something maybe specific about like wireless design. There's a test for wireless design. You pass that specialist test, you get a specialist badge to say, hey, you know what you're talking about when it comes to wireless design. And so this is independent of technically a CCNA, CCNP, CCIE, although oftentimes these specialist exams can contribute to achieving something like a CCNP. So what the heck is a badge? Again, it's a way to show proof of your knowledge, and really these are offered through a website or a service called a claim. So what the heck is a claim? Well, a claim is a way to effectively advertise these certifications and badges and skills that you've learned to other people, be it just posting it on LinkedIn or sharing a link that someone that's prospective employer might be able to click on and validate, oh, yep, he actually does have his CCIE wireless, and what does that entail, and what are the skills that are included within that. And so I'll show you what mine kind of looks like here. So let's go over here. So here's my Acclaim dashboard. This has my current Cisco certifications that I own. And so you can see my NAs and MPs and IEs, both in route switch and in wireless. And so this is my information here, and all this information gets automatically pushed. Once you sign up for a claim and sort of link your Cisco account, Cisco automatically pushes that information down. So it's a pretty automated process once you have this set up. And so let's say that I want to share out the fact that, hey, I'm a CCIE wireless, I want to go interview and show proof of my certification. They will see this type of information, a little blurb about it, skills, what it took to pass. And so I can share it. I can create a link, share this link out, and then it would look like this. So this would be the link that a prospective employer could click on, see, okay, yeah, Jeffrey Rensink does have this certification. This is when he got it. This is about what it is. They can verify it and just factually see, yep, this is legit. This is who it was assigned to and who it was issued from. So we have this today, but every single specialist exam that you take and pass, you're going to get another badge that shows up in here that you can then share out to the world to show proof of your skills. Okay, over onto the CCNP level. Consolidation and flexibility is the big buzz phrase here. So again, we're down to 5 NPs. So wireless and design, CCDP, did go away. And they mainly got consolidated into the CCNP Enterprise. Route switch is in Enterprise now. So Enterprise contains route switch, wireless, and design as well. And then we have the other tracks that really haven't changed: service provider, data center, collaboration, and security. So CCNP, another awesome change here, no prerequisites to get a CCNP. If I want to get my CCNP security, I don't need a CCNA security to get that first. If I already have a good handle on the security topics, I can go right into getting the CCNP. Every single CCNP only takes 2 exams to pass. So no 3s, no 4s. So it's much fewer exams to have to deal with just to get a CCNP certification. Now, every single track, enterprise, security, data center, collaboration on down the line, has it's called the Technology Core Exam. And it's unique to every single track. So there's an enterprise core exam. There's a collaboration core exam, a data center core exam. And this is a little bit larger exam than what's typically shown up in CCNP exams. It's a 100-point exam, at least that's what they've been talking about at Cisco Live. And it covers really the broad information for that track. It's not crazy in-depth detail, so it's a little bit more high-level type information for that track. So a lot of, explains and, understand and those types of things, as opposed to like configure and troubleshoot type questions. So it doesn't go as deep into the technologies. It's more understanding the broad scope of that track. And then in addition to passing that the technology core exam for your track, every track has a handful of, they call them concentration exams. These are the same exams that were just talked about at the specialist level. So these would be sort of specialist exam type things. And these exams go into more of a deep dive into the particular topics. And so let's take a look at enterprise. That's the first one. Yep. So CCNP Enterprise. Again, that's sort of the route switch wireless design one. There's 6 different concentration exams that you could take. So in addition to Enterprise Core, I can pick one of these. And so you can see we have some advanced routing, SD-WAN solutions, so some route switch type stuff. There is a couple designing enterprise networks, designing wireless networks. There's an implementing wireless networks, and then there's automating and programming. Cisco Enterprise Solutions, that's more of a DevNet-y kind of a thing, but kind of in our hardware world. And so I just need to pick one of these. And if I pass that exam and my Enterprise Core exam, I would then get the CCNP Enterprise Certification. If we look at a different track, data center, so if I want to get the CCNP data center, I would have to pass the data center core exam and then pick one of these 5 data center concentration exams. Pass one of these, cool, I am a CCNP data center. You can absolutely pass more of these exams, not that that really gives you like CCNP Plus or anything like that, but it does, every one of these exams that you pass gives you another badge. So if you wanted to be, say, wireless centric, even though it's there's route switch in there, you could take the Enterprise Core and then do both the wireless design and wireless implementation. Yes, you'd have CCNP Enterprise, plus you'd have a couple of specialist badges to share out, say, both design and implementation when it comes to wireless. So when I talked about sort of flexibility, when you're building out your portfolio of skills, this is just a really nice way to do it. So you can get into these different things that in the old way would have taken potentially way more tests. Like if you wanted to validate, hey, you know your stuff in basic route switch type stuff, and you also understand network design as well as wireless design, that would have taken a CCNP route switch for the route switch type stuff. You would need a CCNP wireless for the wireless design parts, the CCDP for the network design parts. That's a whole lot of exams. Now I can just take core, wireless design, enterprise design, 3 exams, and I can validate exactly what it is that I want to validate. So kind of cool changes when you start seeing how things are working. So CCNPs are still valid for 3 years, which is the same for every single certification nowadays. Nothing's really changed in that respect. Now, if you have a current CCNP, you will get the new CCNP in the corresponding track. So anything outside of route switch wireless DP, that's the same as it was before. So nothing really changes there. But if you did have a route switch, you get CCNP Enterprise. If you had wireless, you get CCNP Enterprise. If you had design, you'd get CCNP Enterprise. And then one or more specialist badges on top of that to really show your focus on things. Now, what if you're working on your CCNP, because this is a multi-exam certification that you need to achieve. If you don't make it all the way to completing every exam to get the current CCNP, you will usually get credit. So they have this translation where, okay, if you pass this exam, then we'll give you credit for that exam or whatever it's going to be. So they do help you out along the way. It's not perfect. There's some exams that don't have anything that maps to it, or sometimes you have to pass a couple exams to get one mapped exam, and we'll take a look at that. To recertify, again, you can use exams or continuing education credits. You need 80 continuing education credits to renew a CCNP exam, or from an exam, if you want to do the exam, 80 continuing education credits to recertify the NP, or you can do exams. If you pass the core exam, that's 80 points, and that gives you everything in one exam. If you want to pass specialist exams, it would need to pass 2 specialist exams. Or you can miss a max. You could do a specialist exam for 40 points and then 40 continuing education credits and get that too. So here's sort of the flow. So let's say I had my CCNP route switch today. In the new program, I'll get the new CCNP Enterprise for free. I'll also get the Enterprise Core badge and the Professional Advanced Routing badge. Or if I was wireless, I'd get Enterprise Core badge, wireless design, wireless implement, and CCNP Enterprise. So you can see not only do you get the NP, but you get appropriate specialization badges on top of that to really reflect the skills that you did build. So it's kind of a win-win there. If you are in flight, you haven't gotten that CCNP, but maybe you've passed one or more exams. Here's the translation table in the enterprise world for that. I didn't bother with other ones, but if you go on Cisco's website, there are tools to see, okay, for this CCNP track, if I pass this one, this is what I would get. This is just for example. On the top there, the route switch and troubleshoot for the routing and switching one. The bracket means you have to pass both. So in order for me to get credit for the enterprise core over here, I have to have passed both the route and the switch. If I only pass the route, but not the switch, I wouldn't get credit for the core. If you pass the troubleshoot, you get credit for the professional advanced routing badge. So this is kind of how the translations are working there. But they did a pretty good job, I think, of making sure that you don't go backwards. And we have time, right? There's time to make up any differences. All right, made it to the last level, CCIE level. Here we have uniformity and mostly good tweaks. All right, so we still have technically kind of the same list of CCIE tracks as what we had before. It's just we had a little rebranding in the route switch and the wireless world. So now instead of just routing and switching, it's enterprise infrastructure. Instead of wireless, it's enterprise wireless. Everything else stays the same. There's still no need for lower level certifications as a prerequisite. You do still need to pass a written exam in order to take the lab exam, but here is one difference from what we have today. Today, you have to pass specifically a CCIE written exam for your track. Now, you just need to pass the track's technology core exam. So, if you're going to do data center, you just need to pass the data center core exam. That same exam that you would have taken to try to get your NP, that's the exam that also unlocks the ability to take the data center lab. If I want to take my wireless, well, wireless is a part of the enterprise track, I would need to pass the enterprise core exam. And then the core exam still has sort of the same time restrictions in terms of like with the wireless written today. Once you pass it, you have to take your first lab attempt within 18 months, and then 1 year, no longer than 1 year in between subsequent attempts. It's the same thing with that core exam. So for the core exam to apply to the CCIE lab, you need to take that first lab attempt within 18 months of getting the core, and then no longer than 1 year in between. Otherwise, that core exam would sort of expire prematurely, at least as far as it would apply to you taking the lab. But it should still apply, like if you want to use that to get your CCNP, because it's kind of interesting. We have this common exam that goes into both the NP and the IE paths inside there. So kind of what that means to me, I mean, it should be easier. They liked to stress at Cisco Live that this is not a CCNP level exam, the core, that is. The core exam is not a CCNP exam. Well, yeah, it is, because by definition, if you have to pass this exam to get your CCNP, it's a CCNP level exam. You can't really spin it any other way, in my opinion. So it's probably not as tough as what today's CCIE written exams probably are. All right, another big change is that every single lab now has a consistent modular design to it. So different labs would sometimes have different modules. So some of them would have like a diagnostic and a config. Some of them would have diagnostic configuration, diagnostic troubleshooting in config. And there were different hours on different things. So now every single track has 2 modules. The first module is a 3-hour design module. And this is kind of in the spirit of like what I think the CCDE, the design expert practical, was like, where it's all computerized, you don't have access to any gear, but you're kind of designing and building out a plan based off of customer requirements. And so they're all going to be multiple choice questions or drag and drops or click on this or click on that or whatever, answering questions based off of information being presented. And you're sort of going to create this design. And then when we move to module 2, which is 5 hours, so it's still 8 hours total, then you're going to kind of take that design and then move into the deploy and optimize and operate model. And that's where you're going to get your hands on config and troubleshooting and do all the classic config-based lab type things that we're all used to inside there. And so it's supposed to be sort of an overarching story that flows through module 1 into module 2, as opposed to just completely separate ideas of things. Like things like the lab today, each module has its own minimum score. You need to not go below that, otherwise you fail. And there's also a combined pass score that you need to do, so nothing really changes there. All right, so if you have a current CCIE, you will automatically get the new CCIE, which outside of the enterprise one, nothing really changes, so big whoop. But if you're a route switch or wireless, or route switch and wireless, you'll get the corresponding enterprise infrastructure or enterprise wireless to go along with that. Nothing extra that you need to do. You'll also get corresponding expert and core track badges, which will just slap on top of that. If you're sort of in flight, so let's say you passed your written exam, but you haven't passed that lab exam yet, that written exam will translate into the corresponding core, technology core exam. And so you won't have to, just retake the core. So that current CCIE written, as long as it hasn't expired out, will translate into the core, which will allow you to take the new lab when that time comes without having to redo your written right away. But that new core badge will inherit the same expiration dates as what your CCIE written currently had at the time of the flip over. CCIE is still valid for 3 years, which they are valid for 3 years today, but it was sort of broken up into a 2-year active period followed by a 1-year suspended period. So if you don't recertify in 3 years, you lose it all. It's just that last year you're in that suspended state. Now there is no more suspended state. So you will be active for a full 3 years from the time you pass that lab. And if you don't recertify in those 3 years' time, you don't go suspended, you just lose it like any other certification. So now there's a consistency in terms of that at all levels of the certification spectrum. Here we need 120 points in order to renew, so you can get those, again, through any combination of continuing education credits and taking exams. So if you pass another like say I have my route switch, and then I pass my data center, passing any CCIE lab automatically recerts you. If you pass a core exam, that's 80 points. A specialist exam is 40 points, so you get both of those, and they need renew. One cool change for those of you who are currently familiar with the continuing education system, there was a cap at how many credits you could learn or you could earn by going to Cisco Live. That cap has been removed. So if you went insane with your Cisco Live sessions, you could, if you could get 40 credits per year, you could recertify simply by going to Cisco Live. But boy, that would be an exhausting Cisco Live. They also introduced in the CCIE world something called the lifetime emeritus. Emeritus has been 1 year, 10 years. You could stop the renewal cycle and just be emeritus. You're not technically an active CCIE, but you at least keep the CCIE name. Now, once you've been a CCIE for 20 or more years and you want to be emeritus, you can just be lifetime emeritus and you don't have to re-up. So it's kind of, you're done paying money to Cisco at that point is the basic gist there. Okay, so that's the program. Now my thoughts. In general, I like the changes. Couple concerns on a few things, so we'll go benefits first. So again, think of these as in terms of job roles and not just simply levels of a given technology. There's not, say, wireless. There's not a lot of jobs that just want, hey, a CCNA wireless. They're not looking for a really base level wireless person, and that's that. So, losing the CCNA wireless isn't the end of the world. If you're an entry-level network person, NA is appropriate. You want that broad level, but as you start specializing in a particular technology, that's kind of where the NP works its way in. Specialist badges work their way in. So, cool thing, we can now just focus on the relevant exams to showcase the skills that we have. About the only extra stuff that you might have to take would be those core exams at the NP and the IE levels. But outside of that, everything is pretty well focusing in on specific things that it is that you want to certify yourself in and advertise to the rest of the world. No more prerequisites for NANP. That's kind of cool. You get something to show for, honestly, every single exam that you pass, you have something to advertise, which again is really cool. You don't have to wait till you pass 3 or 4 exams to get your NP to say, hey, look what I did. You have something to show after every single exam and something you can put on your resume and whatever. So it is easier to build and advertise that portfolio of skills with badges. And I felt that they did a pretty good job with the transition plan in terms of getting you credit for what you currently have done, either at a certification level or even translating some of those exams to progress towards your certification in the new version. And the best benefit of all, for those of you who have been following the CCIE world, no more evolving technologies. If you look at the blueprints, that's gone, although it's kind of there. But at least it's not the broad evolving technologies. They just took the evolving technologies that actually made sense for a track and put it in the track, and evolving technologies that didn't make sense for the track, gone. So happy days for that. Okay, downsides. It's a big change. Anytime we make a new version coming out, it's going to disrupt people's plans, and there's really no getting around that, right? So, people studying for a given cert may have to abandon the studies because they're not going to make it there in time and kind of wait for that next version, especially people in longer certifications like the CCIE, where it's a many-month process just to prepare for that lab. If you haven't really started much yet, you're probably going to be dealing with the new version inside there, whereas NA and NP, you might have a little bit easier time getting it done before the cutover. There's a couple of times where you've passed an exam today that doesn't necessarily translate over to progress towards like a CCNP in the new one. So a few unfortunate things there. So response to that, again, if you're working today on your NA or NP, you probably have time, and at least you can figure out what makes sense. So you can look at, okay, well, I won't pass all the exams, say for a CCNP, but I can look at that translation schedule and see, okay, well, let's make sure I get these so I get a good credit in my transition and leave myself, just one exam to pass after the new version. If you're thinking of the CCIE, you do have the ability to at least get that written exam out of the way if you don't want to, especially for us wireless people, we kind of got the short end of the deal on that one, in that we have to pass an enterprise core exam, which has a whole ton of route switch stuff on there that we didn't really have to care about before, or at least in today's CCIE written. So if you want, hey, you can pass the written at least in this version if that would be a preferable thing for you. Other tracks, though, the core technology exam is probably going to be a little bit easier time. And just don't let the transitions discourage you too much. I know it's tough. No one likes to have to feel like they're kind of throwing away the effort that they've done up until this point, but most likely a lot of that effort, you're not throwing it away. A lot of that effort will translate, but I get it. Just, try not to let it discourage you. Don't let your emotions just make you potentially make some bad choices or whatever. Just give yourself a little time, breathe, and just pick it up when you can. Consolidation in the enterprise track is going to annoy people to varying degrees at the NP and IE level. Wireless people. Also route switch people. So the route switch people now have to deal with extra wireless trivia that they didn't have to deal with before, so they get annoyed by our stuff. Wireless people now don't have to deal a lot with route switch stuff, but they're going to have to for that enterprise core exam. And so that's going to annoy us as wireless people. So it is what it is. So you just got to suck it up and deal with it. So this isn't the only extraneous junk you're going to have to learn just to pass an exam, but it just sort of feels even doubly annoying that it's extraneous stuff that has nothing to do with anything that you'll ever do sometimes. Some of the specialist concentration exams don't have another exam that covers the foundational levels of the focus. So what am I talking about here? So because the NA doesn't have focuses anymore, it's just a generalized NA, we can't necessarily use the NA as sort of a building point to get us into that NP level of things. And so, again, I live in the wireless world, so let's take a look at wireless. There is very little wireless in the NA world. Data center people, there's very little data center in that. Service provider people, there's probably very little service provider stuff in that NA level. And so when you move up into that NP level, if your track has a really good broad core exam, that is sort of your building point, I think, to move you into those specialist exams. But when you look at something like the enterprise track and wireless, if you want to get into those wireless specializations, there's really no foundational exam that you could use to prepare for that to sort of build you into that specialist level. You kind of have to just get thrown in a little bit in the deep end. So it's harder from a progression standpoint if you only focus on certifications. We can definitely find materials and learn that foundational stuff first and then dig into the specialist. It's just it's not a natural progression that these certifications offer anymore, whereas we did kind of have that before. So I get what they did. The new program makes sense in those job role perspectives. It's just when we get into these types of things where a specialist exam didn't really have anything to lead us up into it for whatever track it's going to be, yeah, those exams might take a little bit longer to prepare for than before, just because we didn't have some foundational knowledge built up from some other exams that we did. So trainers like me are just going to need to make sure that as we create learning materials for these specialist exams, that we don't assume that you know as much pre-knowledge as maybe we could assume before. So that's mostly on us. As long as we can get some good materials out there, they should lead you through sort of the full scope of knowledge you need into that specialist exam. All right, so making the transition. And I kind of mentioned this throughout the course of the exams, but if you have an existing certification, we may translate that in a one-to-one fashion, and so after the change, nothing may be any different from you other than the fact that you might have some extra badges in your claim portal. But those certifications, expiration dates will remain what they were before. So if my CCNP data center was set to expire in January 1st, 2021, the new one will be set to expire same time. Some certifications are going away, and like the wireless and the route switch NP, those are going to get something to map to, and those new like enterprise that'll inherit the same certification expiration dates there. Supposedly, we get to keep our old certifications until they expire out. It's just that we're not going to be able to renew them. So, for instance, any tracks that have gone away, like most of the CCNA levels, those will just go away. And yeah, you'll have the new CCNA plus, say, like your old CCNA security. That CCNA security will naturally expire out. You just can't renew it anymore. So eventually it'll go away and expire out, and you'll just have the new one, but you'll have both actually for a period of time. All right, so want more info? Check out my other videos about the program changes. Head over to the Learning Network, has a lot of great information about the program, the changes, new blueprints, the translation materials, all that good stuff. So learningnetwork.cisco.com. They talked an awful lot about this at Cisco Live. So whenever these Cisco Live presentations from Cisco Live United States 2019 are available online, you'll be able to watch a ton of them for free and hear them, the people in the programs talking about this information to you directly. So check those resources out. You'll get a lot of questions answered there. Thank you for sticking with me. Be sure to check out networkdojo.com if you haven't. If you have any interest in CCIE wireless stuff, we got everything that you need. Thanks a lot, and good luck with the new program.